Chapter 1. The Silence of Taste. The applause echoed through the elegant hall of the Culinary Masters Awards. Isadora stood on stage, still trying to control her trembling hands. She smiled politely, raised the trophy with grace, and thanked the audience, but inside, something had already gone silent. 2 weeks earlier, she had suffered a car accident, a minor head injury, nothing serious, or so she thought. It wasn't until the day she returned to her kitchen that she realized the flavors were gone. Her palate, once the most refined in Lisbon, was empty. No bitterness, no sweetness, no depth. Only texture, only memory. Isadora tried everything, tests, specialists, therapies, but no one could explain exactly why she could no longer taste anything. Her nose worked perfectly. She could smell the spices. She could identify the aromas. But when she tasted the dish, nothing. Just emptiness. Her world, once filled with flavors and sensations, now seemed faded, muted, colorless. She began avoiding invitations, interviews, and even her own staff. At night, she sat alone in her restaurant, lit only by dim amber lights, sipping tea she could no longer enjoy. The once celebrated chef was now a mystery even to herself. She seriously considered closing the restaurant. Raízes e Almas had been her life's project, a blend of traditional Portuguese flavors with personal touches from all over the world. But how could she run a restaurant without tasting? How could she innovate without feeling? She spent hours rereading her old recipes, hoping something would awaken in her. Nothing did, until one night a delivery took longer than expected. Malik stood at the counter, holding a bag of food and waiting for someone to sign the receipt. He had delivered to that place many times, but never during service, and never so late. He glanced at the dim lights, the empty dining room, the silence. That silence, oddly, felt familiar. Isadora came to the door in a robe and slippers. "Sorry, I completely forgot I had ordered." He smiled politely. "No problem. It happens." As she took the bag, she paused. "You're new here, right?" He hesitated. "In this neighborhood, yes. But I've lived in Lisbon for a few years now." She looked at him with a mix of curiosity and melancholy. "Do you cook?" Malik was surprised by the question. "A bit. For myself, mostly." She nodded. "That's something. Cooking for yourself just means you care." He didn't know how to respond. She looked down. "Sorry, I've been talking too much. Good night." "Good night, chef." She froze. "How do you know I'm a chef?" He smiled gently. "Your name's on the door, and your face is on a magazine cover on the wall." She laughed softly, for the first time in days, and closed the door slowly. The next day, Malik walked past the restaurant again, not delivering, just walking. He liked that street, and part of him hoped he might see her again. Isadora, from the window, recognized him. She opened the door and called out, "Hey!" He turned, surprised. "Want to come in for coffee?" He hesitated, but something about her voice felt honest. He nodded and entered a restaurant where time seemed to have paused. They sat at a table near the window. The world moved outside slowly. Inside, everything was still. "What did you cook last?" she asked, sipping a tea she couldn't taste. "A feijoada. My mom's recipe, but I made it lighter, added some fruit." She tilted her head. "Fruit in feijoada?" He shrugged. "I like experimenting. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't." "But you try." He looked at her with interest. "You don't." She went quiet and then confessed, "I can't taste anymore." He blinked. "Nothing?" She shook her head. "Nothing." He leaned back in the chair, processing. "I can still smell. I can feel the texture, but the taste is gone. That must be hard." She looked at him with tired eyes. "It's like being a painter who sees only in black and white." Malik nodded slowly. "Maybe someone can help you find the colors again." She smiled ironically. "You know someone?" He hesitated and then said, "Maybe me." She laughed, not mocking him, but surprised. "What makes you think that?" I cook with smell and memory too. I never studied, never had access to gourmet ingredients. I learned with what we had at home. Taste was never separate from feeling. She looked at him differently now, not just as a delivery guy, but as someone who had something she didn't anymore, a kind of intuition, a forgotten route. The next day, she invited him back to the kitchen just to observe. He put on an apron, awkward but willing, and watched as she tried to recreate one of her old dishes. She handed him a spoon. Try it. He tasted and closed his eyes. It needs something bitter, maybe lemon zest or a hint of dark chocolate. She raised an eyebrow. Chocolate? Just a note. To surprise, she added it, let him taste again, and then trusted his reaction. For the first time in months, she served something that made sense. Not to her tongue, but to her heart. That night, after he left, she sat alone in the kitchen, staring at the empty plate. She didn't cry, but smiled, just a little. For the first time in a long time, she felt something. Chapter 2. Unexpected ingredients. The kitchen, once filled with her voice and the sound of sizzling pans, was now alive again. Not because Isadora had recovered her palate, but because Malik had brought something else in. Intuition. He didn't know the names of fancy techniques, didn't measure things by the book, but his senses were sharp, his hands precise, his heart even more so. And Isadora could feel it. Every time he tasted and adjusted something with instinct instead of reason, she watched and learned. Again. In the first few days, Malik only observed. He would sit by the counter, scribbling notes in a small notebook full of sauce stains and old sketches. Isadora pretended not to look, but she saw everything, the way he smelled each ingredient before using it, the care with which he handled herbs, the way he cooked like someone telling a story, slow, rhythmic, meaningful. One afternoon she asked, "What's in that notebook?" He smiled. "Memories of dishes I've made, things I've tried, and a few things I never had the courage to cook for someone else." "Why not?" he shrugged. "People like me don't usually cook for chefs." She frowned. "What do you mean, people like you?" "People who were never seen in kitchens like this unless they were cleaning." His voice was calm, but the truth behind it was heavy. She looked at him carefully. "I don't care where you came from. I care about how you cook." That was the first time he looked her directly in the eyes and believed her. They began cooking together every morning. No pressure, no expectations, just two people, side by side, trying to find a language through food. Malik would bring ingredients from his neighborhood. Rare fruits, handmade spices, things she had never even seen. He made her touch them, smell them, guess their origin. She always guessed wrong, but always laughed. One morning, he brought a tiny, wrinkled fruit wrapped in paper. "What's this?" "From Brazil. Called umbu." She held it in her hand, surprised by the scent. "Smells like a mix of lime and mango." He smiled. "Try cooking it down with sugar. Let's see what happens." She boiled it gently. The kitchen filled with a sweet, wild aroma. Even without tasting it, she felt something awaken. Memory, desire, creation. They worked for hours. Isadora would plate and Malik would taste. Less cinnamon, more acidity. Try roasting it next time. She trusted his palate, blindly, and for the first time, her dishes began to shine again, not because of technique, but because they were born from feeling, from their bond. One night as they closed up, she found herself standing closer to him, too close, their hands brushed, and neither moved away. She felt something stir in her, not flavor, not longing, but connection. It scared her. "We should go." "It's late," he nodded. "Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow." "Yes, early." She turned quickly before he could see her smile. The next morning, he arrived earlier than usual. She was already in the kitchen, waiting. They barely spoke, but something had changed. There was a softness in the silence now. He brought a homemade spice blend. My mother used this in everything, even desserts. She opened the jar, inhaled deeply. It smells like warmth. That's exactly what it was. Warmth in bad times. He told her about his mother, about growing up in Bahia, about moving to Portugal as a teenager, about cleaning restaurants before he ever dared step near a stove. She listened, hands resting on the counter. No judgment, only quiet. Admiration. Later that day, she asked him to create a dish from scratch. Use anything you want. Cook like you do at home. He looked nervous, but she insisted. He went to work, humming softly as he moved. She stood back, watching, letting herself be a student again. When he plated the dish, he didn't say a word, just handed her the spoon. She didn't taste it, of course, but watched his eyes as he did. He closed them, smiled. It's good. She believed him, and something in her chest pulsed with life. That night she didn't sleep. She thought of him, of his hands, of the way he looked at food like it held secrets. She remembered the day she had lost her taste, the grief that followed, the silence. And now, this strange, beautiful noise returning, not to her tongue, but to her life. Malik had become part of her recipe, an unexpected ingredient, one that couldn't be measured or replaced. She wondered what he felt, if he noticed the way she looked at him when he wasn't watching. If he understood that without him, she would have closed the doors long ago. In the following days, they developed 3 new dishes together. She called them flavors of absence. He called them flavors of hope. And the 2 names, in a way, said everything. She had lost her palate, but not her hunger. He had never had space in a place like hers, but now he belonged. And though neither of them had said it out loud yet, they both knew something was growing. Between them, something deeper than taste, something sweeter than spice. Chapter 3. In the shadow of secrets. The reopening of Raíces y Almas was quiet. No press, no announcement. Just a soft light behind the windows, a chalkboard sign outside, and a single line on the menu, a new experience born from silence. The first customers came out of curiosity. Locals, old regulars, a few tourists. They left speechless, not because the food was bold or revolutionary, but because it felt honest, raw, alive. No one could explain what made it different, only that it made them feel something, and that was enough. Isadora watched from the kitchen, standing beside Malik. She trusted his taste more than she had ever trusted her own. He guided her through each plate, not by teaching, but by sensing. Every dish was the result of both their instincts, his palate, her technique. 2 worlds, blending. They never talked about what was happening between them, but every look, every brush of fingers, every shared silence in the kitchen said more than words could. She felt herself softening, opening, and that scared her more than losing her taste. One night, after service, Malik lingered. They sat at the back table, the lights dimmed. Outside, Lisbon was quiet. Inside, hearts were loud. She looked at him, fingers tracing the rim of her teacup. "Why did you come here, Malik?" He paused. "To Portugal?" She nodded. He looked down, and when he spoke, his voice was different, softer, heavier. "I had a brother, younger than me. We used to cook together as kids." Isadora listened, still. He got involved with the wrong people. In Salvador, drugs, gang stuff. Malik's jaw tightened. One night he didn't come home. Silence filled the space. She didn't interrupt. "My mom begged me to leave. Said I had a gift. Said I didn't belong in that world." His voice cracked just a little. "So I left. Got a job here, cleaning, then delivering." She leaned forward, gently. "And cooking. I never stopped. But only for myself. Until now." She reached out and touched his hand. Warm, firm. You're not just cooking, Malik. You're healing. He looked at her, eyes full of something she couldn't name. Maybe hope, maybe guilt, maybe both. That night, she didn't want him to leave. But she said nothing, and he understood. He rose slowly. She walked him to the door, and for a moment neither moved. "Good night, Malik. Good night, Chef." But he didn't turn away. Not yet. "You can call me Isadora, you know." He smiled. "I know," and walked into the night. The next morning, everything felt brighter. She hummed as she moved through the kitchen. Even without taste, she felt alive, whole, until she opened her email. Subject: urgent, health inspection report. She clicked. Her hands began to tremble. The report detailed an anonymous tip. Someone claimed the kitchen was being run by an unlicensed, untrained worker, that Malik was preparing food without proper certification, that the establishment was violating professional health codes. The inspector would arrive in 48 hours. She felt the world tilt. She didn't tell Malik at first. She watched him move through the kitchen unaware. She tried to pretend nothing had changed, but her silence was heavier than usual. He noticed. "Is everything okay?" She nodded, too quickly. "Just tired." He didn't press, but she saw the worry in his eyes, and it broke her. That night, after closing, she handed him the printed report. He read it slowly, then folded it, carefully. "I understand." She looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" "I'll leave." Her heart dropped. "What? No! You have a restaurant to protect. Your name, your reputation." "I don't care about that." His voice was calm, but distant. "You should. I care about you, Malik." It was the first time she'd said it out loud, and once it was out, there was no taking it back. He looked at her like he'd heard a secret he'd always known, but never dared believe. This wasn't supposed to happen. She stepped closer. "What wasn't?" "Us." He smiled, sad and beautiful. "I was just supposed to deliver your food." She laughed, heart aching. "And you ended up delivering something else entirely." He looked away. "If I stay, and they shut this place down, you'll lose everything." "I already had lost everything, Malik." She touched his chest. "And then you showed up." He closed his eyes, breathed deeply. "I'll take the certification exam. I'll pay for it. I'll study every night." She nodded. "We'll fix this together." And when they kissed for the first time, it didn't taste like anything, but it felt like everything. Chapter 4. A Taste of Courage. The kiss changed everything. Not in the way people imagine. It didn't rush them into love. It didn't solve all their problems, but it shifted something deep inside both of them. A door had opened, and now there was no closing it. Isadora woke up the next day with a calm she hadn't felt in months. Her world, once made of silence and fear, now pulsed with quiet determination. Malik wasn't just someone in her life anymore. He was part of her life, and that meant she would fight for him, for them. They turned the back room of the restaurant into a study space. Books, flashcards, old recipe manuals in Portuguese and English. Malik studied every night after service. Isadora quizzed him between dishes. Sometimes he got frustrated. She always made him laugh again. Who invented beurre blanc? Some French person who had too much butter and no plan? She burst out laughing. Technically not wrong. She admired how quickly he absorbed everything, but more than that, she admired why he was doing it. Not just for the restaurant, but for himself. To claim a space no one ever told him he deserved. The health inspector came back earlier than expected. The staff froze. The kitchen went quiet. Malik stood tall beside Isadora, clean coat on, every paper ready in a neat folder. The inspector asked tough questions, checked temperatures, watched Malik work. He asked, "And your certification?" Malik met his eyes. "Exam scheduled, 2 weeks." The man said nothing for a moment, then nodded. "I'll return after that." "Don't give me a reason to write anything negative." He left, and everyone exhaled at once. Isadora leaned against the counter, weak with relief. Malik touched her shoulder gently. "We still have a shot." She looked at him. "You are the shot." That night they didn't study. They danced, alone in the restaurant. Malik put on music from home. A soft samba, smooth and warm. He extended his hand. She hesitated, then took it. They moved slowly, laughing at first, but then the laughter faded, and the quiet between them deepened. She rested her head on his chest. He held her, like he had always known how. No words, just movement, just breath, just them. In the following days, Malik cooked with more confidence. He started inventing dishes of his own. A moqueca with a Lisbon twist, a risotto with Brazilian pepper and coconut milk. Each one had his soul in it. Customers noticed. Reviews began to appear online. A hidden gem with flavors that feel like a story. Something here is different. You can taste it in every bite. They weren't just recovering, they were rising together. One afternoon, as they prepared for dinner service, a woman entered the restaurant. Older, elegant, she walked with purpose. Isadora greeted her, confused. "Can I help you?" The woman looked past her, right at Malik. He froze. Isadora noticed the change in his face. Pain, joy, shock. "Mine?" Tears welled up in his eyes. Isadora stepped aside. His mother opened her arms, and for a moment nothing else existed. They embraced tightly, both trembling. She whispered, "I saw you on the news. A friend sent me the article. Said there was a chef in Lisbon with your name." Malik laughed, eyes full of tears. "I'm not a chef yet. You always were." They sat together. She told stories from Bahia. He told her everything. How he'd left. How he found this kitchen. How he found Isadora. And as he spoke, she held his hand and never let go. That night, when his mother left, Isadora kissed his cheek. "I'm proud of you. You helped me become this." He paused. "No, we became this." She smiled, and for the first time in a long while, she believed in something bigger than herself. In love. In second chances. In the flavors born from courage. 2 days before the exam, Malik woke up at dawn, went to the market, bought ingredients he'd never cooked with before. When Isadora arrived, he had the kitchen filled with smells she couldn't name. She looked around, amazed. "What is this?" "My last lesson. From me to you." She watched as he plated something vibrant. "Describe it to me." She leaned in, smelled it, touched the texture. It's citrusy, spicy. It smells like a street corner in summer, like heat on concrete, like... She paused, and something flickered inside her mouth. She blinked. Wait, she tasted a corner of the plate, then again. Her eyes widened. Malik stared. "Isadora." She covered her mouth. A tear rolled down her cheek. "I tasted it." He rushed to her side. "What did it taste like?" "Like hope. Like you." Chapter 5. Flavors of Forever. The morning of the exam felt like the world held its breath. Malik stood in front of the mirror, his hands steady, his heart was not. He wore a white coat, crisp and clean, the sleeves rolled up just enough to show the scars on his arms. Scars from hot pans, sharp knives, long nights, scars from surviving, from becoming. Isadora waited outside. The exam sent her pacing. She wasn't allowed in, but her presence was. She texted him, "I believe in you, more than I believe in anything." He smiled, tucked the phone away, and walked in. The test was long. He was asked to identify herbs blindfolded, to recreate a classic dish with limited ingredients, to explain techniques, temperatures, chemical reactions, and finally, to create a signature dish. Malik stood in the middle of the kitchen, closed his eyes, and breathed. Then he cooked from memory, from feeling, from his past. He plated a dish no one had ever seen before, a blend of coconut and saffron, charred mango, and salted cod. sweetness, smoke, sun and soul. When the judges tasted it, none of them spoke. They just nodded, slowly, silently, and he knew he had done it. Outside, Isadora sat on the steps. The door opened, Malik walked out. She stood up, heart racing. He didn't say a word, just held up the certificate, certified chef, Malik Souza. She screamed, jumped into his arms. They spun in the street, laughing like children, like survivors, like lovers. "I told you," she said, grinning through tears. "I always knew. You knew before I did. That's what love is, Malik. Seeing the fire before it catches light." They returned to Raíces e Almas that night. The entire team waited. They clapped, hugged, cried. The restaurant, once a place of silence, now overflowed with voices and joy. Malik entered the kitchen and looked around. Then he did something no one expected. He took off his chef's coat, walked to Isadora, and handed it to her. "This is yours." She frowned. "What are you doing?" He smiled, starting something new. She looked puzzled. "What do you mean?" "I've been cooking your vision, our vision. But now, I want to open something of my own." He hesitated. "I was offered a space. In Alfama, a community kitchen. They want to turn it into a cultural project. Teach kids, feed families." She stared at him. "That's beautiful. I want to build a place where no one feels like they don't belong, where people like me, like we, can cook without needing permission." She nodded, tears threatening. "So this is goodbye?" "Never." He stepped closer. "I want you to be part of it. Always." She smiled, trembling. "Are you proposing business or something more?" He laughed. "Both." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a tiny silver ring. Simple, no diamond, just a small engraving inside. "You taste like hope." She covered her mouth, stunned. "Malik, marry me, Isadora." Silence, then laughter, then tears, then yes. She leaped into his arms, and in that moment, there was no kitchen, no past, no fear, just them, whole, real, together. Months passed. Lisbon buzzed with stories about the couple who cooked their way through the impossible. Isadora regained her full sense of taste, but she never forgot what it felt. Like to create without it, to trust without seeing, to love without certainty. Malik's new space opened with a line around the block. Kids learned to saute before they learned to spell. Families came to eat, not just for the food, but for the feeling. The feeling of home, of roots, of soul. They called it sabores invisíveis, invisible flavors, named after what Isadora once couldn't taste, but always felt. And every night, after the last dish was served, after the lights dimmed and the music softened, Malik and Isadora sat outside, hands intertwined, dreaming of tomorrow, grateful for yesterday, and knowing without doubt that love, like flavor, doesn't need to be seen to be real. It just needs to be felt.